Hello everyone, welcome to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the power of timing. So when it comes to forex and trading it, we usually refer to two elements, price and then time. So with technical analysis, we refer to these two elements, price and time. And we've been talking about price for so long, nobody actually really talks about time that much. But in today's video we're going to be telling you about time. So to understand the power of timing, we actually need to understand the forex market sessions. So with the forex market sessions, we have the Asian session, FFO, which stands for the Frankfurt opening. We have the London session, we have the New York session, and then we have the Sydney session. So just as I would like us to begin with the daily cycle is actually going to begin with the Sydney time, which is 22. So Sydney's time, then we go into Asia. Most of the time, Sydney and Asia actually have the same reference for price action, especially when we're trading dollar pairs. These two sessions are used to build liquidity before the day actually begins. Like they're the first part of the daily cycle for building liquidity. So sometimes we could take our Asian session to begin at 22 and then end at 6. The next, which is the Frankfurt session, that is hardly talked about. The Frankfurt opening is actually very important to price action, in the sense that at 7 they could actually begin a move, or they could use this particular time to manipulate you into taking one side of the market, while London traders would actually come and then go the other way. So speaking of Frankfurt, then the next session would be the London session. The London session ideally opens at 8 and then closes at 16. So by 16 the banks in London are closing. Then the New York session is going to be open from 14 hours all the way through to 22, which is when the Sydney session begins. So why are we talking about the sessions? The sessions are actually very important to you as a trader. If you're going to be trading intraday, you're going to be trading swing, you're going to be scalping or whatever it is, you need to know which session you're in and how it actually affects the pair that you are trading. And we've talked about that in previous videos. So now that we've spoken about the beginning and the end of each session, we're going to talk about the times where volume is actually injected into these particular markets. So there are times where we actually expect that, okay, at this particular time within this session, we are going to have an explosive move, or we expect that price should start moving if there is a point of interest that price has to react from. So now we're going to talk about those times. People who decide to call them magic timings, they have all sorts of names in the markets as to where they are popular, but then we're just going to talk about them as times to enter the market. So with times to enter the market, if you're within Asia, the best time to enter the market is 1 hour after Asia's opening. And 1 hour after Asia's opening is 1 o'clock. Why are we entering the markets 1 hour after Asian opening? Is because between 22, that is the Sydney session, to the Asian session, spreads are usually widened, and nobody wants to be entering a market when the spreads are wide. So right at 1, the spreads are decreased back to normal, and then traders get into the markets. So that's the Asian session. There's 1, and then there's also another key time for Asia, which is 04. So 1 a.m., 4 a.m., very important. If you want to be trading Asia, for those of you who trade JPY pairs and stuff like that, these are times that are actually relevant to your trading. Then the next time here is the Frankfurt opening, which is FFO. So we all know that Frankfurt opens at 7, and it's actually going to be very relevant for you, that for those of you who trade the DAX and the German indices, those are actually going to be very important to you. Then the London session. The London session, for entering in the London session, we want to enter the markets between 9 and 9:30. I would say just 9:30 alone, but these times could be 15 minutes on or 15 minutes off, like plus or minus 15 minutes. So For London, between 9 and 9:30, usually at 9:30 the move actually begins. And then the next time for London is 11:30. So for the New York session, we have 13:30. I mentioned 13:30 here, but when we come to the session timings, we see that NY starts from 14. Is because the actual New York session is actually opened at 13. Okay, so from 13 to 22. But I believe that the moves actually start 1 hour after the session is open. But then 30 minutes prior to the session opening, they are usually manipulative moves. I don't use 13:30 that much, but then if you check the chart, 13:30 usually produces a move. So let me just add it. So 13:30 for New York, and then 14:30 is my favorite time when I'm trading the New York session, because around this time most of the moves happen. Why 14:30? Because let me just put this in brackets. The New York Stock Exchange opens at exactly 14:30. So right at the open of the New York Stock Exchange, we're going to have explosive moves. So now we've talked about the session openings and closings. Now we are talking about the times to enter the market. So we have the Asian session. We can enter at 1 and we can enter at 4. Frankfurt opening, we can enter at 7. London, we can enter between the minutes of 9 to 9:30. We can also enter at 11:30. For New York, we can enter at 13:30 and 14:30, which is the New York Stock Exchange open. I did not want to go on the chart to actually show you examples because I wanted that to be something like your homework. But then I'll just show you a couple of examples, and I want you to go in, week out, test how many times the moves began at these particular times, and see if you'll not have more than a 70% accuracy within the week just with timing. To see that, okay, if I'm expecting this move, I'm expecting a buy, should start around this time. If I'm expecting a sell, should start around this time, depending on what we've learned so far with price. So price is going to guide your bias, and time is going to guide when you enter the market. So let's go back and then see something. So this was just today's price action, and let's look at what happened today. So today at 9, we saw this move to the downside. So 9:15, this was a 9:30 candle. Then now let's come look for 11:30. 11:30, if we were looking for sales, 11:30 was not in sync with our direction yet, but we saw 11:30 kick into this particular block and then push all the way up. So what is the next time we're actually looking for? 13:30. So 13:15, 13:30 right here. If we're looking for sales, you could have gotten at 13:30 and then maybe your stops above this area. We're not doing stop loss placement, we're not doing targets or anything of that sort. We're just looking at when the move started versus when it's continued, stuff like that. So now we're looking at the next time again in the market, 14:30. So 14:30 we had this. So anytime from 14:30 we could be looking for a move, and then we see how price is actually kicking to the upside from 14:30. So this was Friday the 14th of June, if I'm right, price action. Now let's go to the 13th of June, which was on Thursday. On Thursday, when again did this move begin? At 9, 9:15, 9:30 we had moves all the way to the downside. So 13, 13:15, 13:30 we had this slight reversal. Okay, and I don't want to be telling you what the times are actually doing in the markets, like let's say 13:30s for reversals and stuff like that. Usually 13:30s for reversals, but for now let's just learn the times and knowing that we expect a move there. Okay, so now the next thing is 14:30. So 14:30 we see how we kick this particular move all the way to the downside. So for the rest of the times that we're talking about, I don't want this video to be longer than 10 minutes. So for the rest of the times that we're talking about, I want that to be your homework. Get into the charts. Any single thing that you trade, if it's a JPY pair, you should be looking at 1 and then 4 o'clock. If it's a USD pair, of course, you should be looking at the New York session, which is 13:30, 14:30. Usually 14:30 is the most reactive time. And then you should be looking at how stuff like that work. For those of you who trade NAS, then your friend is going to be 14:30 because it's also listed on the NYSE, and once the New York Stock Exchange opens, we have explosive moves. So with NAS, you literally almost always see your moves at 14:30. If you doubt it, go into the charts and then look for it yourself. Type in the comment section if I am right or not. So I'll leave this particular video here. Thank you very much for staying through, and then I'll see you guys in the next one. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, and share this with your friends if you like it. Bye.